Hi, Pisces, Sun and Rising. Welcome to your May 2021 Astro Update. It's Raina here, and I'm looking at the transits in the sign of Gemini. And this is really powerful because this is affecting your career sector. As the month begins, the Sun is in Taurus, as are Mercury and Venus. Taurus for you is a friendly angle, which is called a sextile. So it's two signs away. And in this case, Taurus is two signs in front of you. And so this is affecting your third house of communication. And Gemini is the ruler of the third house. So there is definitely a connection with Mercury being in that particular house because it's in its own house. And so this is, I'm recording this at the end of April, like literally the last day of April. And so this has been ongoing since the latter part of April. And so perhaps you have been communicating with your siblings more, communicating in general more, something to do with teaching, learning, very mentally active with those topics, and or verbally active. And Venus can bring money in this area, also love, so love online with online dating services, or through family members like siblings, cousins. If you meet somebody through there, maybe you'll fall in love with your cousin. Oh, okay. Then on the 3rd of the month, Mercury goes into Gemini. So now we're talking about another mutable sign like you, Pisces. And this means that it's going to be in that fourth house of home and family. And so, like I said, the third house can be family members like siblings and cousins, aunts and uncles. The fourth house, I'm just going to say parents. I'm not going to say mother or father. I really want to say mother, though. Really, really, really. And so you may be communicating with them, one of these people. I'll just say her, more than usual. For some reason, maybe there's some grander scheme that is making this happen. And when Venus goes into that sector, that could even be money coming from the mother, coming from the family of origin. And also the fourth house is real estate. So there could be property. There's another thing too with documents, with Mercury in the third house, that might be getting your paperwork and together, and then being able to sign some paperwork as it relates to real estate, and having money, procuring money for the sale of a house, or gaining money from the sale of a house. There, you can be like, beautifying your home, maybe putting on a coat of paint or anything along those lines, buying new furniture, something, but with the point being, I want this to look nice. All month long, Mars is in Cancer, and this is your fifth house, Pisces. So this is a very fun area. Some Pisces people may be doing some kind of sports that have a competitive edge. Mars is very competitive. And it's not necessarily with a team. I mean, you could be doing, if you're like a bodybuilder and you compete with other people, you could be doing that. That's a possibility. There's a physicality with Mars. So definitely something that the fifth house is like anything that you do as a hobby, pastime. So fun things. It's a house of pleasure. And I'm going to go there. Mars is the libido, and the fifth house is recreational sex. So, but it's also the house of conceiving children, so just keep that in mind. Mars can be like physical desire, obviously, but also that can be generated by somebody that you meet. So you can meet somebody. This is a house of love. So you can meet somebody and be physically attracted to them like that. And that, sets it all off. So it could be an affair. It could be something where you're doing a lot of creative projects. This is a house of creativity. On the 11th, there's a new moon at 21 degrees of Taurus. And so again, we're looking at that area of communication. If you work in the media and you're looking for a job, this might be a good time for this to happen. Oh, by the way, the first half of the month is going to be more straightforward in terms of, progress, things kind of, being a good time to launch and things like that. The second half of the month, we're running into retrogrades and a lunar eclipse. So we're having more of that change with some of these, like major changes. Okay, so just keep that in mind. But, if you have something that you want to launch at the end of the month and your heart is really set on it, don't allow your intuition to be superseded or ridden by any kind of astrological transit. Just resist that urge, because you may have higher information, and your personal chart can have its own transits that are more in depth than what I'm talking about here that would support that. So, have faith in yourself and what you want to do. The reason that these transits to me are important, whether it be in a general sense or in a personal reading, is because they can give you some idea of what is going on in that, from that influence, so that if you've been having kind of like a lot of blockages and things like that, it can help you to feel like, okay, I'm not crazy. It seems like, everything is not, gelling right now. Like, what's going on here? And that can, when you relax and realize that this too shall pass, it's not going to just like keep being bad. It makes you like lessen resistance, and then that can have its own set of, positive traits. So this can be a good time for launching a website, actually, when new moon is in your third house, or a blog, or anything that has a connection with communicating with others, a newsletter. This is a good time to scope out new neighborhoods if you're looking for a new place to live, and get on the ground, not just to drive through the town, but actually walk around and see what's going on. On the 13th, Jupiter goes into Pisces, and so now we're looking at it from the other side of things. We're looking at I said other side of things. Now this is in your, what am I talking about? This is your sign, Pisces. I was thinking of Gemini. That's where I was coming from. Oh my goodness. So this is not going to stay here for the rest of the year, just for a few months. But just this is a nice little reprieve from maybe having all this emphasis on your 12th house, which you probably can deal with, but it would be nicer to have Jupiter in your first house and having a whole new Jupiter cycle to bless your life in general. So this can open up your world in so many different ways. I don't know if I've done I'm doing a separate video for the transit of Jupiter into Pisces for Pisces sun and rising signs. So look to my channel. I've done a couple of them. I might have done your sign already. I can't remember because I haven't been doing them lately. So check that out. So that's on the 13th. On the 20th, the sun goes into Gemini. So the sun is in that fourth house sector. And you might be like Susie Homemaker. Maybe you want to, you got Venus there. You're like beautifying your home. You might want to be cooking more and just being more at home. The sun is very extroverted. It's shining its light on everything. But when it's in one of these water houses, the person might be more into themselves. Maybe they're inviting close friends or family over to cook and stuff like that instead of, just going out on the town all the time. On the 23rd, Saturn goes retrograde at 13 degrees of Aquarius. And so Saturn is has been in that, in Aquarius now. It's in your 12th house. So sometimes that's known as the dark night of the soul. Again, I think it depends on the sign that is dealing with it, because I think Pisces are old souls and nothing is going to, scare you, bring you down. But because it's retrograde, I think this can actually be good for you. If you do have a tendency to get depressed from that now and then, or if you've noticed that you've been a little bit more down now since this transit began, this can give a reprieve from that, actually. But also this would be a really great time to get a past life regression. If you have been in regular therapy and you still haven't discovered some of the trauma that you've been trying to heal, that might be a really good thing. And, there's also, from what I understand, ayahuasca, the plant medicine, it has to be a hallucinogen because it produces hallucinations. I think people have been able to uncover their trauma from taking that in a plant ceremony, but I would really, really research that and really take account into your own nature, because I can't ever imagine doing anything like that. I'm not Pisces, but I just can't, I'm too afraid. I am too afraid. Some people have done it. I mean, I think people have a lot of guts to do things like that. So I'm by no means am I recommending that you do it, but I'm giving an example of some of these ways that people have found to kind of like look at the past and kind of examine it in terms of their own personal growth. But this might just in general have a positive effect on you. And not to say that, when it turns direct, then you're going to be like totally depressed or anything like that. No, actually, when Saturn is in your 12th house, Saturn wants you to get down to business, down to brass tacks. In the 12th house, it can only be, through the spiritual. So if you're one of those Pisces people that is highly intuitive, but you just aren't disciplined in your spiritual practice, then maybe that's it. Also, this is a big one for Pisces, addictions, okay? I think that when you have Saturn in your 12th house and you have addictions, and maybe they've been going on for a long time, it's time to look at those. Because when you have Saturn in your first house, in a few years, that's a whole new cycle, and you want to lay down foundations for your life in a practical sense. And so you have to get rid of some of those bad habits in order to get there, in a complete sort of way. And also, so I would say also watch out for any tendency to kind of go off the wagon. Like if you've been on the wagon, with whatever, and then Saturn goes retrograde, and then all of a sudden your sense of urgency kind of like dissipates, and you're like, well, it wouldn't be so bad to have one drink. What you should do is, if you're in AA, call your sponsor. Otherwise, remember how it was. Remember why you quit, because maybe you're having such a better life right now that you're forgetting how bad it got. You know what I mean? I think a lot of times that's when people, that's when they go off the wagon. And as I've grown older, I have like kind of revised some of my opinions on addiction, things like that, because I do think that um, it's not always the case that you have to completely quit something, or else you'll just go right back to it. I think that sometimes people are in a situation. They're in a situation where they are hitting the sauce or hitting the bong or whatever it is because of other things that are going on. And once they have healed those issues or solved those problems, they don't have that same desire to use that they used to, and they can do it. I'm not talking about heroin or something like that where it's physically addictive, and although alcohol is physically addictive, so let's not make alcohol to be benign. It can be a very, very bad problem for some people. And so this is by no means me saying, hey, take that drink. If you are somebody who has really had a serious addiction, it's probably wise never to take any substance. Don't say, "Oh, well, I'm an alcoholic, so I'm going to smoke pot." I don't think it works that way, and I do agree with AA that if you are taking one substance, don't use another. But by the same token, there are some people who really were never hardcore, but they did have problems with it for a time in their life, and they quit. And it's everything is on a spectrum, in other words. So I don't want to just like keep regurgitating these talking points that everybody is the same. But, this is something to definitely take into consideration. Don't let down your guard if you're somebody who really has become sober and that was a good thing for you. On the 26th, we have a lunar eclipse at 5 degrees of Sag. So still more mutable energy. I just realized that we're having all this mutable energy. And so for Pisces, this is your career sector. Wow. It is at an early degree, so a lot of you may be experiencing it in your 9th house, and that will be more of a spiritual download, maybe some kind of a eureka moment that has more to do with your it could have something to do with your future career goals. Maybe you do want to do something that is spiritual for your career goals, and so you're going to go in that area. But for others, it could be something that is much more of a spiritual experience in general, not related to any practical things, but just knowing yourself on a spiritual level more so. And then also for those who are at an early degree, and this falls in your 10th house of career, this may be like your breakthrough moment where you just totally you get seen. This is your place in the world. So it can mean publicity, like you becoming like fame, but I mean obviously that would be in very specific circumstances. But just in general, this can be an area that gives you greater recognition, and maybe you have like a promotion that is even more than you thought it was going to be. However, this could be something completely different, and you could find that you want to walk away. It's really not you doing it, though. It's kind of the universe taking away something in some cases where your career may be over. Maybe if you're like at an age where they can, I don't want to say fire you, but they can force retirement, and maybe you wanted to work a few more years, where all of a sudden it's like over. But don't count on that date because it may be at a different time when it manifests. You may not notice anything happening. This is not meant to be, oh my God, I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to, be shut out of my career. No. And whatever happens in your life as a whole, if you embrace it and you don't fear it, if you're not fearing the future, you're going to be so on point. I think some Pisces people are a little bit fearful. Maybe because if you grew up and you had a lot of chaos in your life, you just want things that are going to be very much more predictable and manageable because they're predictable. On the 29th, and some of you, if you are like at the retirement age, knowing that you're a Taurus and you might be stubborn and afraid to just like not have that identity anymore, and it is taken away from you, it frees you. There's like a liberation with it. So don't interpret it in a negative way. On the 29th, Mercury goes retrograde in the sign that it rules, 24 degrees Gemini. So once again, we're talking about the fourth house. So if you are selling a house, if you are buying a house, look at the fine print. Get an inspection. The house might be riddled with termites. But also your documentation. Make sure that everything is as it should be. Don't get fooled by somebody who has put in some fine print that is going to screw you over at a later date. Maybe, a house that doesn't go through because of some factor, but it doesn't mean it's not going to. Wait until the end of June before you start freaking out. And don't freak out. I'm just joking. You don't have to freak out. Because Mercury is going to go direct on June 22nd. And then, it takes some time to get out of its shadow. Just, I don't know, maybe a couple weeks or so. Okay, that's what I have for you, Pisces. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you'd like a personal reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.